All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to start off just by introducing everybody on our panel. I'm going to pass this down to you. Hopefully it's on.
Hello. Hi, my name is Shivani, and this summer I did an internship at UCLA through the Amgen Scholars Program, which is kind of like an RU, but it's also sponsored by Amgen, which is a huge biotech. So it's kind of cool because you get to work with academia and industry. And I was in the Navi lab in the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering.
Alicia.
Hey guys, I've been doing my internship for the past year and a half with Agilent Technologies as a marketing and user research intern. That's a little Lego I built a product I helped launch. It doesn't look like anything. It's liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. Don't worry about it. I don't understand it either, but yeah, it's been fun.
Hey guys, I'm Rachel. You just heard me talk a lot, but I am a junior this year, and this past summer, I worked at USA Facts as a software engineering intern. They're really cool because they're a nonprofit helping make government data more accessible to people. So if you want some facts on the issues right now, I highly recommend checking out their site. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, and as my first internship, I really learned a lot.
Hi, my name is Ioli. I'm also a junior majoring in CS, and last summer I interned at Oracle as a software engineering intern. And that was in California, as you might be able to tell from the pictures, very sunny. But it was also an amazing experience because I got to work on databases, specifically within Oracle Cloud.
And this one's mine. Hi guys, my name is Meredith, and I worked at a company called Trimble down in Colorado. I was an educational technical training intern, which meant I was designing certification exams and training material for a CAD software called SketchUp. You might have heard of it. And I'm majoring in HCDE.
Hi guys, I'm Gabby, and for the past year and a half, I've worked as a research assistant for UW School of Medicine. I work in Dr. Nate Smayadecki's cell biomechanics lab for the mechanical engineering department. And yeah, me at the research symposium and then one of my experiments up there.
Hi guys, my name is Catherine. I interned with Boeing for the last 2 summers. So I'm going to my junior year and my senior year. And I did flight test engineering. So yeah, these are some of the pictures. I worked on the 777X. So both planes have not been released yet. They're both in the certification process, but the top one is the 777X and this one is the 737-10. Yeah, so that's what I did. But yeah.
All right, and we have an anonymous question form that you can scan right now. You can fill it out now or during the panel itself if any questions come up that you have for specific people or also just in general. But we're going to jump into how do you actually find and apply for internships? What does that look like? Everything involved. So the first thing we're going to go down the line and answer is how did you first find out about the role that you accepted?
I was really close with one of my TAs my sophomore year, and so I just reached out to her because I was interested in research, and I was like, hey, do you know of any, labs, anything like that? And so she was super helpful. She made time to meet with me, talk to me about my interests, and then got me in contact with about 10 different labs that I reached out to from there. So make connections with those TAs and professors because they always have a lot of opportunities and know a lot of people.
Yeah, with mine, mine was pretty targeted. I think I really wanted to be at the company I was at, so I applied to like every rec that they had for interns, just on their website. And for other internships though, like to be honest, I've done that with tons of companies and heard no responses. So it really is just like I honestly think it's luck. But it's like there's Handshake, there's LinkedIn, there's also just like their websites. So I feel like those are all really good resources. And also the career fairs, they usually tell you. I've applied to all like positions, so there's just mine as a little bit.
Yeah, I found mine by just like Googling what are the top summer research programs, and then I applied to like the top 15. That's how I found mine.
I got a referral, which was really important because they were initially looking for someone with an MBA, so I definitely would have gotten screened out if it was through something else. And I also do research, and I like checked my email, and they were looking for people, and I applied to that.
I actually found mine through the career fair. And then I knew specifically though about the company because I had a friend who had interned there and I knew that like to me the company seemed super cool and something I was passionate about. So when I went to the career fair, I made sure it was one of the first companies I went to. And I also got in line really early because career fair lines get super long. And although it does suck, the recruiters get tired too. And so I think I had a lot of success with like career fair recruiting because I was one of the first faces they talked to, and I had researched about the company beforehand, so I could like passionately talk about them.
Yeah, I also just cold applied through LinkedIn, like one of hundreds of applications I sent out, so nothing too special, but yeah, they reached out like a little bit after that.
Yeah, so this kind of goes off of what Ioli just said. But how early did you guys start applying and how many applications did you send out before you actually got your internship? I was in the same boat where I think I was at about 150 when I had heard back about like my first interview.
Yeah, I also applied to around 200-ish applications. I looked in my inbox afterwards to count how many rejection emails I had, but that's the number. And I started applying like I guess the previous summer, so summer 2024. But I actually only got my internship in April of 2025, so 2 months after before I actually started.
Yeah, so it's definitely really rough out there. Like, don't let those rejections get you. And even worse than the rejections is when they flat out ghost you and you never ever know. I got mine from the fall career fair, so I found out in about November, and then accepted in December. So I got it pretty early. I hadn't actually applied to that many, mainly because I didn't know I was supposed to. It was my sophomore year, and none of my like parents are in industry, and so I didn't realize that recruiting started in the summer. But this year I started applying about August, and I've definitely had a lot more success in getting more interviews. So although it sucks because school hasn't started yet and it feels like, oh, I can just do whatever I want, like it does really help to apply early.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same ballpark. I didn't count it because that made me depressed. But I actually got this internship like I was interviewing for it in July. So this is like it was a year-long internship, so it wasn't the same summer cycle. So that's why. But yeah, like at that point, I had probably done like 200, 300. Terrible.
For summer research experiences, there's a formal application with a deadline, so they're normally due like January, February, and then I got my offer in March, but I also like applied to like 50 industry internships also.
I would probably say my freshman year, I think I applied to like 30. And I didn't get anything. So that was a rough, like, had to go through it to learn. But my sophomore year, I think I started probably in like August, like right when they opened. I started applying, really similar to Rachel, probably like 200, 150, something like that. But yeah, I would start early.
For the on-campus research that I'm doing, it was kind of more of just like more of a rolling kind of a thing. So I reached out to my TA and I don't know, I think February, and then cold emailed all the 10 professors that I had, and then interviewed with each of them in March. So it was kind of like whichever lab was open was looking. And then for internships, I decided to stay in the lab and not do my internship last summer because I really like research. But that one I applied to about 100 as well before I heard back that organization. So yeah, apply.
Yeah, so considering we've all applied to a lot, are you guys tailoring your resumes and also are you reaching out to recruiters, employers, etc.? So I can speak a bit for myself. I have tailored my resume a lot, and I've also tried without tailoring my resume. And I've had a lot more success in hearing back when I am tailoring my resume to the specific role. I know that sounds like a lot of work, especially when we were saying like it's like hundreds of applications, but I definitely think it has been worth it. In terms of recruiters and reaching out to employees, I didn't do that for the specific internship that I land, but I did do it for other companies. And even though it didn't necessarily land me internships, it's definitely a great way to get experience with networking.
Yeah, I agree exactly everything that Meredith said. Yeah, I also reached out to a couple of employees, recruiters, things like that. And well, I did get ghosted by a lot of them. some of them are really great connections now and will let me know when their companies have opportunities, even though I didn't intern for them. And I've also done both ways where I've just, applied with the same resume, same cover letter. But you definitely, I feel like, have a better chance when you do tailor your resumes and your cover letters, especially because a lot of screening, goes through AI and they're looking for specific keywords in their applications that you can get if you tailor your resumes.
In terms of tailoring, I didn't tailor it per company, I tailored it per industry. So like if I was applying to any aerospace company, I tailored towards that. If I was applying to like civil engineering or industrial, I was tailoring towards that. Automotive, similar, like it was like whatever I was applying to, I would tailor towards what they were looking for and like buzzwords about their products and things like that. And then in terms of cover letters, maybe I was a little extra, but every cover letter I wrote separate.
I also tailored like per industry, and then for the summer research program, there wasn't a resume, it was more essays, so those I tailored. And I know I had friends who did like reach out to professors at other universities, and that's how they got their summer research. I didn't reach out, but I think it does help to co-email professors.
I also tailored my resume for industries. So I have like a research one, a UX one, and a data science one. But I also do think like tailoring per job description or keyword is probably the best way to go. And I did a ton of coffee chats. I like volunteered at a couple of conferences and like connected with those people. And yeah, like it's embarrassing to ask for a referral, especially if it's someone you don't know, but it does help and it does get your foot in the door. And most of the time people aren't against it. Like they don't really lose anything by referring you. So if you're like nice enough, they will. If you like worked with them before, they're usually.
I've actually never tailored my resume, but I am CS, so I feel like that's pretty like a niche field. I also think it does help to go to a lot of like different recruiting events, especially if you're just a freshman, because I feel like those you're less likely to get offers, but then your face gets introduced to the recruiter. And usually people who come to UW, they're the same people who come again. Like usually they have like a UW recruiter and they go through several times. And so going to the career fairs and meeting the recruiters for these companies, the second time around, I've seen them again and I feel like I'm a little bit more familiar. And then honestly, for me, the biggest thing has been like applying as soon as the application opens, because at least with CS, they close quickly. And so like within like sometimes like 24 hours. So that's the one thing I've done. And then one thing I noticed this year versus last year, I don't know if it's true at all, but with CS you often have like online assessments you have to take. And I've noticed that like my sophomore year, I often like waited until the last moment to take the online assessment because they stressed me out a lot. But now I've been trying to take it a little bit earlier, like not to right to the deadline. And I feel like I hear back or move on more. I don't know if that's 100% true, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've also like not tailored my resume ever. But I have gone to like resume review workshops, just make sure my resume looks good for like, because I was applying specifically like for software engineering. So making sure it's like catered towards that. So I guess it's like kind of tailored towards the industry. And then I didn't reach out or I didn't get my internship through talking to a recruiter, but I did go to other recruiting events, which I feel like is important to get experience, like just for your behaviorals or like making connections otherwise.
I also want to mention, for the reaching out to people, LinkedIn, if you like are really interested in a specific company, I would like look up the company and see if they like highlight certain people or like recruiting partners or things like that. I think the career fairs are huge. If you're like at the career fair and you meet someone, ask them for their LinkedIn and stay connected with them. And then like they'll remember you if you keep contacting them on LinkedIn, or if they like post something, like it, comment, whatever, and they'll remember that like you're interested or you care. So staying connected with industry is really important for getting a referral in the future. Like even if like you're talking to them as sophomore and you are like, you know that the next summer is coming and you want an internship, make sure you're like putting in the effort throughout the year of like liking their things, contacting them, or just making sure they know that you're remembering them.
LinkedIn does this handy feature where it shows the UW alumni that work at the company, and they are also usually okay with you reaching out and being like, hey, like I go to UW right now, I saw you work here, hit me up a coffee chat. And even if their team is not hiring, like Catherine said, like you can talk to them and be like, keep me in mind for future opportunities, and like that has like worked out a couple times for me. People are generally nice.
All right, so moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about preparing and skill building going into internship recruiting season. We'll just have you guys, like a few of you, answer each question. But the first one is, what technical or soft skills do you think were most important for your internship?
I went to the SWE conferences, the national conferences, and so I heard a lot of the same feedback at all of them. A lot of the companies in engineering don't really care about your technical skills that much. I'm gonna preface by saying they want to see teamwork, leadership, like that you can be collaborative, that you can be adaptive. So they want to see like you highlight those skills, and then like your technical skills are a plus usually. So like, oh, you know CAD, great. Oh, you know Python and Java, wonderful. But like them seeing leadership, teamwork, those things are like the things that they really highlight. I think in interviews, I've noticed them comment the most on like sweet or they've mentioned a lot, like I have as hobbies at the bottom, the fact that I like, for example, did sports, like it just shows teamwork. And so they ask a lot of questions tailored towards like when I was working on teams. So I think that was a big thing. Actually,
Literally verbatim what Catherine said. I talked to an Adobe recruiter at the SWE career fair at the national conference in New Orleans this year. And he was literally like, yeah, everyone who's applying knows Python, knows Java, like that's like given if you're applying to this. But like not everyone like, you know, works well in a team or like has like is self-driven or is passionate. And I feel like for my interviews, at least, I always think like the ones that I do like the worst on, those are always the ones I get for some reason. And I always think I do badly on them because I like start yapping about something like random and like I'm like, oh, this didn't even like make sense. Like for my internship interview, I started talking about Go Baby Go, which is a club on campus that has nothing to do with marketing or user research or anything, but she was super interested and kept asking me questions. And afterwards I was like, I didn't like touch on any of my user research skills. Like this is stupid. But like I ended up getting it. So I think having like the passion and also just like showing your determination and like that you're self-driven in other areas is important because they know that way like it's gonna kind of translate over to your internship as well.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
guess for CDS, I would say your technical skills do matter, which kind of sucks. I do think one thing you can do though, because everyone will be saying they have the same things, is try to have projects, but they don't even need to be impressive projects. I think getting an internship my sophomore year was mainly because I had done hackathons, which aren't crazy projects. I mean, you complete them in 24 hours, but I just had stuff to put on my resume, which is otherwise really hard to build up. Or I really recommend clubs like Husky Coding Project or Web Impact. They're kind of ways to build projects for your resume that have clubs that help guide you through it, which are great things to develop, particularly like in your freshman and sophomore year. So when you're applying your junior year, you have stuff to show.
Yeah, I'll second that. So for me, for my interview, technical skills were obviously very important because also CS. But in the internship, actually, I used like a language that I've never used before, SQL, which I think basically at my team, they really care about teaching you. So it's like you don't need to be perfect at like Java or Python or whatever, but really show that you have interest in a particular field. Because I also have a business minor, so they placed me on a project which is more like project management as well as CS, so combining both of those, and they really want to help you learn. So it's like once you actually get to the internship, it's more about working with your team, discovering what you're actually interested in.
Right. So we all might be a bit biased because we're all in SWE leadership, and Rachel already mentioned a few other clubs. Were there any other clubs or activities or side projects you guys did that helped you prepare for internships?
Well, I guess I talked about mine. My freshman year, I did Web Impact. Last year, I did Husky Coding Project. I really recommend both of those. And then I also started research last year. And then, like I said, hackathons, if you get a group together, it takes your full weekend and it does suck, but it's a project that takes a weekend to make.
And what part of SWE, there you go, when you break a lot of leadership.
And I've talked about those a lot, even though like bricolage is like literary and visual arts and humanities, like it doesn't track at all, but I'm doing research and I've done a fellowship in AI machine learning. So those are all like experiences I draw from, even if they're not really related to the role.
I've done research since my freshman year, and I feel like that really helped me get the summer research program because they were looking for someone who has like at least a year of research experience. And then I do also talk a lot about SWE in all of my interviews because people always ask about leadership, so it's good to show like your soft skills.
I actually am really only a part of SWE at UW, but I would say the other things that were on their resume that I'm a part of are like volunteer groups. I highlighted my church and I coach volleyball, so those were things that I mentioned, and they're like outside of this, but they're not like on campus, but they're other experiences that I was a part of. I also dabbled in Husky Flying Club for a little bit. But it was just like really time consuming with the position that I was doing in SWE. So.
I've been a part of SWE leadership, or yeah, just having a position in SWE since my freshman year. I also work as a campus tour guide, and so I've moved up in terms of like positions, and now I'm the student director. I have my research lab. But what surprised me the most in my interviews, and hands down what I get asked the most questions about, and is my biggest talking point, was the position that I held in my sorority. So I was like our chapter relations and standards. So all about conflict resolution, interpersonal skills, communication and teamwork. And on feedback that I've gotten, that is like what they're looking for is like, wow, you did something that, that's outside of engineering. That's something that works a lot with other people, that has those conflict resolution skills. So just getting involved any way you can, whether it's a club that's engineering related or not, and trying to, get involved from an early start, and building up just like your leadership skills, your leadership positions, I think is the biggest advice that I'd say to any freshman is just get involved, try something new. A lot of times it's going to help you in ways that maybe you wouldn't have thought it would.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to move a little bit faster just so we have time for your questions at the end. We talked a little bit about networking career fairs, but does anyone have any other experiences or tips that actually helped you either get comfortable networking, helped you at career fairs, etc.?
I would probably plug CR. So corporate relations, I think, is a big one. All of the industry events that we've done in the past, and just our networking events, I think recognizing my freshman year, how chill recruiters are. They really just are people. And like the word networking in the engineering world, professors talk about, oh, networking is so scary. That word is terrifying. Engineers don't like that word. But really it's just chatting. Like you're just like, oh, cool. Like, what do you do? Hey, how did you get here? Where did you go to school? Blah, blah, blah. And then it just like sparks. So I would say the CR events, and if like there are companies coming, I used to avoid them, but now I'm like super excited to like meet new people and like get more contacts. So like if your department sends you an email and it's like Apple is coming, or hey, Tesla is coming. Because those were like companies that I had gotten emails like for ECE at least that they were coming. Like go to those and just like go say hi, tell them your name, get their LinkedIn, and then like it's just like chill. It just makes you feel like more comfortable. I would also probably, I would say the career fairs are like the biggest plus of SWE. Like the career fairs have been life-changing for me. I think every offer I've received has been from a career fair. Either here, the like Boeing, I mean the UW Fall Career Fair or the SWE National Career Fair. I've been to the conference 3 years in a row, and it's just so many opportunities, and they're just like handing out offers. So yeah, I would definitely go to those.
Okay, this might seem crazy, but it's something I've been doing lately and it kind of worked. I received some advice this summer that was like basically any gathering of adults is a networking opportunity. So for example, I went to my brother's cross country meet and I was just standing there like as a college student, and I started talking to the parents and they were all talking about how their kids were going to UW, and I was like, oh, I go to UW. What do you do? And I networked all the parents, and out of all the parents I met, 2 of them were senior engineers at various companies I was interested in, like LinkedIn and Microsoft. And I ended up getting to do office tours of their buildings. And I don't know, it was just an opportunity to meet people. And it doesn't even need to be like people you personally know, but if you can find a group of adults somehow, like take advantage of the fact that you go to UW and people from this area know what that is, and it's widely well known. It can be helpful.
Also, we're a gathering of adults right now. I know it's hate to break it to you, but yeah, even if, you know, like no one here can really help you get an internship right now because none of us are, you know, in a job. A couple of years down the line, that might not be the case anymore. So the connections you make right now, right here, that's important too.
Perfect. All right, now in terms of interviews and recruitment, what types of interviews did you guys go through? Whether that was behavioral, technical, case studies, etc., and how did you prepare?
So for software engineering, so I had about 4 rounds of interviews. So I had like a recruiter chat, and then I had the technical screen, and then 2 back-to-back interviews of like technical and behavioral. And like, yeah, it sounds bad, but honestly, I think the main thing I would say, like, if you're interested in those types of roles, is to keep practicing your coding skills, do leak code. I know it sounds scary. But one more thing is, even if you don't feel confident about your leak code skills, always make sure you're talking to the recruiter during your interview. Like, you're not just silently sitting there and doing the program. You're talking to them about your thought process, because I think that's what really helped me. I didn't have the most optimal solution in the world, but I think what really helped me was talking about my thought process.
Yeah, agreed.
For research interviews, they are more technical, so I would prepare by brushing up on all past research projects I've done and all the techniques I've used. So I was prepared to ask any questions, answer any questions if they ask anything like technical. And then also like behavioral interviews where they ask more about like your leadership and your teamwork.
For engineering, I would say, companies like when you know their company. So before every interview, I would like research like all of their products that they're coming out with, their most popular ones, just to like know what are the things that they do. Like there were some companies I didn't really know anything about, but I was like gonna go sit in an interview and I hope they weren't gonna ask me something I didn't know. So I was like about the company. So I would say really know the company, like just what they do. And then the other thing, your best friend in an engineering interview is going to be the STAR method. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of the STAR method, but every single question they ask you, the best practice is to answer using the STAR method, which is S, what was the situation? T, what was the task that you had to do? A, what was your action? And then R, what was your result? Like, what was the result of that? I can repeat that later, or if you guys want to ask me what that is, you guys can come after me afterwards. But the STAR method, like when you're in an interview, they're typically like writing what you're saying, and if they can track with you and like follow your thought process, that's going to be like the easiest way for them to follow you and recognize that you're organized. So I would try to answer them in that way. The other thing I would say would be for interview prep. I would, if you Google their questions, a lot of time people who've gone through the interview process will post the questions they were asked. It's not super reliable, but in behavioral interviews, there's like a list that like they typically jump between. And I like went through and just wrote like a bullet point, because you can have a note sheet with you in an interview, which a lot of people don't know. You can have like a paper with you. And I just like had like experiences that I had, like the time I worked with a difficult person and the result of that, or like a project that I did, or like something like that, and just like one line. So I could like glance at it. Oh, that one is the one I'm going to use. So that's really helpful too. Just like reflecting on your experiences.
Yeah, I can also speak to a lot of the things Catherine just said. Like I said, I didn't even know what my company did before, like when I applied for them. And when I got to my interview, I did a ton of research on the company as well as the role. One of the things they're always going to ask you is like, why do you want this job, basically? And like, why do you want to work for this company? And I gave probably like a 2-minute speech about like why I wanted to work for this company. And I got told it was like the most extensive like question answer they had ever heard. And I was really embarrassed, but it worked because I got the job. So yeah, don't be afraid. Like it's so important to know the company. And we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm gonna open up the Q&A form as well if you guys have come up with any questions. We've also had a few that have come through. So one of the first questions is, what do you think set you apart from the applicant pool to land your roles in industry?
I would say because I was a sophomore, I know it was not my technical skills because other people have better ones. I think it was because I truly was like, I knew what the company was, and then I personally was passionate, but even if you're not, like, act really passionate, because like they want people who want to work there. And I think if that really comes through, where in every like thing you say, you kind of tie it back to that company, or kind of like wrap up the interview being like, I really do love your company and love to work here. It really does show and like really sets you apart from everyone else because you're all gonna have kind of similar experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think for me, also as a sophomore, I didn't have technical skills, but I think I had a very diverse resume. So I think a lot of people just do just for that industry, like just focus on one thing. But actually the summer after my freshman year, I had a more like non-technical business related internship. And I think that was like something that stood out on my resume because that's different than what everyone else is doing. So just having like things you're actually passionate about.
I think I'm gonna really highlight what Rachel said was the like, it sounds horrible, like fake it till you make it kind of, where like, if you act super excited about the company, they're like, oh, this person might stay. And like, they're not gonna hire an intern that they think will leave the company. Because then that's like a waste of money, that's a waste of like resources and training that they're having their like experienced engineers doing instead of working. So it's like, if you're like, I love this company, you don't know them, but like, you're like, just really highlighting that, they're like, oh, like, this is worth like hiring them. This is worth this person like being at our company. I know that sounds terrible, but like, I didn't know that until like I was like interning and someone had said that during the internship.
Yeah, I would say definitely like, at least for me, it was like the first few weeks of my internship was a lot of training and a lot of asking questions. And they're paying me to do that, but they're also paying your manager or anybody else in that role who is helping you, taking time away from their work. So again, if you can emphasize like why you want to be there and why, like it shows that you might want to be there long term, and that's one less person they would have to train in the future. So I know we have a couple of people who had internships as a sophomore, and we had some questions about what can I do as a freshman to put myself in a good position to get an internship in later years.
If you're currently a freshman, I did not join SWE until winter quarter of my freshman year, and that was a big one for me. Like, I think my entire interview with Boeing my sophomore year was asking me about SWE. So I would, and just like other experiences like that. So I would just try to get involved in some leadership, even if it's not SWE. I think I'm pushing SWE because I'm biased, but I think leadership is huge in engineering specifically. And it just shows teamwork and initiative and like dedication, because you're not gonna be a leader of something you're not dedicated to. So yeah, I would say leadership's a big one that I prioritize going from like freshman recruiting season to sophomore recruiting season.
Yeah, SWE and just joining other clubs and trying to go to some projects. I think some clubs will do like winter applications if you have to apply. So like keep your eyes out for like coming winter break. Or if some of those clubs do have those winter applications, sometimes right now they're just having like informational meetings and like go to those, even though they're kind of boring. Or just like reach out to a club that already did close and say like, hey, I am interested. If you feel like you kind of missed that mark but want to, like there are opportunities. You just kind of have to chase them out in college. Like they won't just come to you. But if you put yourself out there, like I genuinely do think you'll make it. And then also the sophomore, you are gonna have to apply to like a ton. And that really sucks because rejection after rejection is awful, but just keep going. And like everyone I know who's a sophomore who didn't give up got something eventually. If that gives you any hope.
Also, action item. This is like kind of for human-centered design and engineering people, but like they also accept every major. HCDE does these direct research groups, and it's just a Google form application process.
And they're a really great way to get research experience over like the course of the quarter. Like the one I did in freshman year is literally like being presented at the conference and being published right now. So it's like you get to do like kind of beginner work, but like get put on like a really like real world research project. And like that is something I talk about a lot in sophomore year. Like, yeah, you don't have that much experience as freshmen, and that's okay. And companies know that you're not like you have like 5 years of work experience when you apply to your freshman year internship.
Perfect. So I know we are running low on time, so we're just going to go with one final question. And then you guys are more than welcome to come up and ask us questions afterwards. We just want to be able to respect your time. So this is kind of combining a few questions, but thinking about how do you guys start networking on LinkedIn as a freshman? And also how do you approach like coffee chats and cold reaching out?
I just had someone approach me for a coffee chat the other day, which was crazy. So I was like, I'm not a real person. Anyways, but honestly, I think like there are templates out there, first of all. So like if you're like actually like worried about what you're gonna say, there are templates. Not a proponent of ChatGPT, but you can ChatGPT it. Like you can just figure out like, what their title is, what your industry is, and be like, I'm interested in this, this is me. Can we just set up a time to talk about it? If they're not willing to talk about it, like you can message about it, or you can ask like, can you refer me to someone who might want to like talk about it? Anything like that. Like I think the best way is like quantity, like, not everyone's gonna reach back out to you, like these are busy people, but if you reach out to like a ton of people, a couple of them will come back and a lot of them will be willing. And also like, don't like go directly to like senior executives or whatever and be like, okay, like that's who I'm gonna network with and they're gonna give me a job. Like you can talk to people who are like just a couple years out of grad, like, they have the job, they know what they're doing. Yeah, don't be picky.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think one way to actually meet those people is in like freshman and sophomore year, I would go to a lot of events that even like UW clubs host events where there's like panels and then people from industry come to the panels. And then after that, you can go up and talk to them, get their LinkedIn, and then get the conversation started that.
Yeah, we've had like some panels in the past, but I think as a freshman, specifically talking about LinkedIn, a lot of UW actually has lots of like UW campus recruiters. So like for like different companies, like the companies that you see here, I think almost every company that was at this fall like career fair has a head UW like campus recruiter, and like it's like listed somewhere on their LinkedIn. If you like take the extra time to just look at LinkedIn and like try to find those people and contact them, and they see that you're from UW, they're usually willing to chat with you. Like I know for when I applied to Boeing, I found the like head recruiter for Boeing through UW and contacted her on LinkedIn, and she took my resume. So that was just a big one, like finding who the UW recruiters are through LinkedIn.
All right, kind of echoing the same thing. I know it's really scary and really hard, and you're going to have to get comfortable with rejection. Like has been said, you're not going to get every job. You're not going to hear back from everyone you contact. It is a numbers game, and so it is going to take a lot of time and effort, but it's very much worth it.
I would just say a lot of people who are here would probably be really open in helping you, like figure out these initial steps, and like doing it the first couple of times. Like I'm sure everyone here would be like more than happy to help. So if you guys are nervous, like you guys can always reach out. Like that's what the SWE community is for. Like being a community, helping each other, pushing each other forward. It's not like we're competing against each other. We're trying to help each other. So also, it's never the end of the world if you don't get an internship. It's really good then, like in the grand scheme of things. Don't worry about it. All of us have gotten a number of rejection letters.
Yeah.
I got one today.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. As I mentioned, if you have any more questions or specific questions for people, feel free to come up and talk to us. Add us on LinkedIn as well if you want to chat, find us on Slack. And then speaking of networking, we also have membership event coming up. We have our Sip and Paint with Phi Sigma Rho, network with your peers and also peers in another club. And then Grad Suite is hosting a networking happy hour at Big Time Brewery coming up this week. No, they've had a lot of RSVPs. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for coming. I hope you have a good night. Good luck with midterms.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you.